What's up, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive into finesse jigs. What color finesse jigs you want to throw, what trailers you want to use, how to make and tie your own finesse jigs, all kinds of stuff. Great video for you today, folks at home. Let's dive on into how to create your own finesse jigs and what you want to be throwing.
Okay guys, so I'm getting ready to do my 1/8 ounce. This is tiny. I've had several people ask me, are you going to tie rubber leg jigs or bucktails to the 1/8 ounce? The answer is absolutely. I think that it has a role to be played, especially in the early and late parts of the year when the water's still cold. So I'm gonna get right into this. This one I'm gonna do as a PB&J style color. And I'm going to do it as a puffball jig. So the difference here is that I'm going to take my purple and I'm going to take my gold and I'm going to fold those over. Okay? And when I fold those over, that's what's going to give me the puffball style jig. You can fold them over again if you'd like to. I'm not going to on this particular jig. I know some guys will fold them over twice, 3 times to make the hair and the fibers really, really short. I'm not really that concerned about it on this one. These puffball jigs are super fun. They give a great little two-tone look to what you're trying to do. And that's essentially it. I'm putting 3 wraps on this, and then I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna do my, my half hitches. I'm gonna do 3 half hitches. And this puffball jig is literally done at that point. Once again, I'm gonna put glue on it. But you don't have to put glue on it. I'm gonna put glue on it because I just want a little bit extra to hold that on there. So as you can see, I did what, 2 or 3 half hitches. I tied that on there. Sally Hansen's is getting ready to go on. You can see that the Sally Hansen's getting a little bit thinner now as it's starting to warm up and as I got it underneath this light, which will impact the fibers of what you're using. The rubber leg, jigs will kind of stick together around this neck part from the Sally Hansen's being so thin. That's why I switch over and use Gorilla Glue once it starts getting too warm. Basically trim my ends off here. Once again, I leave the top ends a little bit shorter than the bottom ends. And then you just kind of take your scissors down through here and you just trim all of these loops. And now this is gonna make a jam up puffball style jig. And the cool thing about this is it's got that ultra sharp hook on it, but it's also got that great bait keeper, and that bait keeper is what you're really going to focus on. This is a 2/0 hook. Kind of looks a little bit goofy, but honestly, once it gets wet, it flares out perfectly. You can put a small little trailer on this thing, like a little pork. You can put a little bit of a you can put a little TRD chunk on here. I just cut this little TRD chunk off. You can put this on here, and then you've got such an amazing presentation. There's the bait keeper that is not going anywhere. You've got, your little puffball style jig on an 1/8 ounce. This is gonna be a smallmouth, largemouth killer. Walleye are gonna eat this thing up. You'll probably even catch a few panfish on this, to be honest. But there you have it. There is the 1/8 ounce upgrade, puffball style. I did that in less than 4 minutes.
So when I'm fishing a finesse jig this time of the year, I'm talking 1/8 ounce all the way up to probably a 1/4 ounce in terms of weight. I'm fishing really 2 colors. I tend to find that a peanut butter and jelly jig is going to generate a ton of bites. I like to throw a TRD on there or a flat chunk in brown, flat matte brown. Or I will flip it up and go with the loud black chartreuse, and then I will throw a green pumpkin trailer on there. Here you have the Crush City Craw. This bait, you can just see that the skirt stands out, it stands up. The Crush City is not too much action, and what you're looking for this time of the year is hard spots. Now, in the cold water period, fish won't always be bottom oriented. The other finesse style jig that I like to go to at this time is the hair jig. And the hair jig can go from a ½ ounce all the way down to an 1/8 ounce. It is an overlooked presentation in cold water, but it is a killer presentation in cold water, especially when you can find fish suspended around bait or suspended over hard bottom areas. Literally, the hair jig with, adding a trailer to it or fishing it just as a straight up hair jig is a killer vertical presentation. When the ice comes off and the water is cold, a hair jig can produce, especially in situations where fish are suspended. It is an overlooked presentation that a lot of guys have forgotten. Float and fly also plays in the coldest of water conditions. But hair jigs are super forgotten. People up north fish them for smallmouth, people down south fish them for striper, but for largemouth bass, a hair jig will get you bit in cold water. Here is a trailerless hair jig. You can see that hair breeze on it. So let's see how Dave ties up a hair jig.
All right, guys, so the last one I'm gonna do is gonna be the color pattern that I call menhaden. It's gonna be a bucktail on a 1/8 ounce jig. Here's my bucktail. What I try to do is kick out some of the fibers right away. And then what I'll do is I'll trim the ends. Now I take those ends and I kind of roll them between my fingers. Okay, then I'll come back in here. Need to trim those again. I'll come back in here and I will place them on my jig head. And all I'm gonna do is rotate them just slightly. And I don't really care how this looks right now, because I'm gonna finish it off in a way to where it's just gonna be really nice. Take some more white. I've had a couple people tell me how they tie their bucktails, so I just basically am copycatting their recipe. That's too many for one hand, so I'm gonna cut this down a little bit. Pull the loose fibers out, trim off again. I'm basically just going to place these things here. Bucktails take a little bit longer to make. Probably take me 2 minutes to make a bucktail. And then I've got a little bit more to backfill on the back side, or which would be the belly side. So I'm going to put some more here. And now that is looking pretty solid. So I'm just going to take my fingers and pull the fibers on the neck down and kind of give it a little bit of a figure 8 style, a figure 8 style wrapping. Okay, to finish off the menhaden color, here's a couple right here that I tied. These are on the old TT jig heads, but I've got a little bit of green flash and just a little bit of black. Take a little bit of black here. Place a little bit of black and I put that on the belly of the hook, which is actually the top side. And then I've got a little bit of green flash that I add. Only like 5 or 6 strands. And what I do is I'll take that on the side. And then I'll rotate it around to the opposite side. Okay. Now I'm going to finish everything off with a few more wraps to give it a nice little finish. And then once again, I rotate it. Here's my half hitches. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. This is gonna be a smallmouth. I like to use Gorilla Glue when I do my bucktails because I have a lot bigger area to work with. Oh man, that glue is nasty, nasty. That needs to get a lot I need to let that get a lot warmer. It's too thick right now. But anyways, I like to use the Gorilla Glue when I tie my bucktails because it's a lot wider area. Okay, there it is. So I'm gonna trim a little bit off. Once again, I don't like to trim too much because I'm not the customer. Cole might want these a little bit longer. He might want them a little bit shorter. He can trim them. If he doesn't like all that black, he can literally just cut the black out. So that is how I tie my bucktail. Super fast, right? So that took less than 5 minutes. That's my menhaden color with red thread. And then once again, if he wants to put a curly tail on the back of here, if he wants to put a jerk shad, swim bait, or if he just wants to throw this as is, this is a killer, guys. He is going to have a lot of success on these little hair jigs like winter, exactly like this, no trailer or anything. If you want to throw a trailer like a Z-Man, it'll stand up on the bottom. That's what that keel's designed for. The keel's also designed to help this thing rock back and forth with a paddle tail. So actually go through the water and rock back and forth. If you put a jerk shad or a TRD or something like that on, it'll run straight true. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. That was a bunch of little 1/8 ounce ties in less than 20 minutes. GoPro, stop recording.